Good afternoon. Today we'll be learning how to make a cookie cutter out of a tin can. First step of this is to disassemble a can. I used a can opener to take off the bottom of the can to start off with. So, as you can see, I worked my way around the can, slowly cutting it. I couldn't go in one motion as the tin opener wouldn't spin. So, I'm working on slowly. Again, this saves you a bit of time in the long run as it leaves a bit of a cleaner edge so it's easier to deal with. You work your way around, eventually you'll come to a point now you'll see the can lid starts to lift off. You just keep working. And here we go, you'll see it just comes off now. Quite simple, here it comes. As you can see, there it is, gone. So, the following step will be to look for the little line along the can. This is the seam of the can. So take your scissors and cut along the seam. Starting off at the bottom or top, up to you, but cut halfway. Don't try and cut too far as it becomes quite difficult and it becomes easy to miss the line. Swap it over and continue back from the opposite side. Again, just cut until you're cut and it should come apart. This should create quite a clean cut. In my case, it left a tiny bit of metal, which you can see I've pulled off and put aside. So now you want to straighten your can out a bit. By doing this, you're just making it a bit easier to work in future. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is find the center of the can now. You're going to use a Koki to do this, preferably a whiteboard Koki as it's easy to clean off and you don't have to worry about it too much. So as you can see, I've started off here by trying to figure out where the dips are, as it can be kind of hard to make these out from the trough. So start off by working your way through, by just marking each one and counting. You'll notice here I make one long one. That long one is the center of the can in this case. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make little holes along the can. This is the way I'm going to break this can off. You can use other methods. This to me is the easiest way to get a straight line. I just used a knife that I didn't really care about as it will get blunt, a cutting board to protect the table below, and you just work your way along. As you can see now with all the little holes, you just got to bend it a couple times for it to start breaking along that seam. So I just bent it over, being careful not to bend it too much to the point where I damage the can itself. So you go through again, a bit of a wiggle, and there it comes. So it'll take a bit of time, but you eventually get it. You get better at it as you do it more and more. Almost there, breaking it now. There we go. So the next step will be to look at your edges. See this one here? It's quite a clean edge already, to the point where we don't need to touch it up. This one, however, as you can see, is a bit raised on the one side. So what you're going to want to do is cut along the surface with your pair of scissors just to make it neater so that when you fold it over, it looks a bit better. So as we cut along here, I'm using the little ridge where it changes in elevation as a way to line my scissors up and follow. So I'm just taking my time as it will save you time in the future with not needing to redo this step. Well, there we go. Now you can see this edge is a lot cleaner and can be used now. So that's pretty much it in preparing your can. Today we'll be learning how to make a heart out of a tin can. So first step, as in always, you're going to want to make your seam at the top so that you don't cut yourself when you press on it. Same exact process as every time. Draw your little line out. You don't need to do the line, it's just a rough bend, and work your way along with the pliers for your first step. Just moving along nicely. Don't take too big gaps between your sections, as this will make them bend weirdly. You can see here, just push it over with your fingers now so that it's easy to fold over with the pliers at the end step. Here we go along. As in every video, like I always say, the more time you spend on this, the better it will look, so it's up to you how long you want to spend on it. Okay, so now, since we're doing a heart, there's two things to note with a heart. Both folds will not be in the same direction. One will be outwards, one will be inwards. The reason for this is the fold at the bottom is bent inwards, while the fold at the top is bent outwards. So I've divided mine up into three segments. The one short segment forms up half of the bottom half of a heart, while the other segment forms the top half of the top half, and then the last segment forms half of the top half and half of the bottom half. So you'll notice here how this one here I'm bending outwards. This is the top bend. So we're going to bend it outwards now. I'm just using a pair of pliers for this because with all the ridges along this can, it makes it quite hard to bend in that direction. Okay, There we go, we're just getting it started, and now we're putting it over. Again, this is just a rough bend over because we'll move it together properly when we finally figure out what it's going to look like. So there you have it, your two folds that need. Now what you're going to want to do is you work your way around the top half of each side and bend them over to make a nice constant curve so that it has that classic heart shape. Okay, so you can see I'm just working my way along trying to get as smooth as a bend as possible. Again, take your time here, as the more time you take the better it will look. So you'll see now it's starting to take shape. So now I'm bending the opposite side, just getting it to the point where I feel that it looks correct. Don't bend it too hard, as this can cause the can to kink and it will make it look unnatural. It won't be curved, it will have a sharp edge. Now we're just marking out where we're going to connect it together, like always. Okay, so now I'm going to choose to make the one that's pushing outwards the inner one, as this will hold it against the other edge. So that one will be bent outwards while the other one gets bent inwards. So here I'm going to bend this one outwards. There we go. Just taking your time, you don't need to rush this step at all. Okay, so as in every other one, now bend this side the opposite direction, so this one will be bent inwards. Okay, now what you're going to want to do is push it down your fingers so that you're happy with it, and hook it together. Okay, take your pliers and you're going to clamp it together. I wasn't happy with how it was fitting together here, so I just moved it a little bit to the point where it seemed good enough. You can see I was just knocking on the top to try and get the top and bottom aligned, but it wasn't working out because one of my bends was a little bit bent. So here I just fixed that bend and now it fits together nicely. Okay, so now we crimp it together with the pliers as usual. Again, the tighter you do this, the stronger it will be. Okay, and there we go. That's our heart cookie cutter pretty much done. You'll see here I'm just using the pliers on the top half here just to fix one of the little kinks that had formed. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you found it helpful.